my second language, actually Spanish, and lived in Spain for a few years. Ended up teaching English, as you do, because you can't do much else out there. And then I ended up, to get my Spanish absolutely top level, I ended up teaching bridge using Spanish. Now, bridge is the card game that I took into schools that led me to write the book, School No Place for Children. I'll come back to that, or you can let me come back to that.
Yes, yeah, of course, of course.
Again, I'm chopping decades off my bio here. So I come back to the country from Spain. It's now Tony Blair's in. He's conned me into thinking that he was going to do something positive. I've fallen for the charm, and I won't do that again. So back in the country, teaching in schools, and getting funding to go to schools, and then getting defunded when the system realizes that I'm too dangerous. Now, what do I mean by dangerous? Well, I'm giving the children an activity that they actually love. And you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, what were you thinking? And was this teaching them, was this bridge you were taking into schools?
It was a simplified, it was a version of bridge that the French and Dutch had created called mini bridge. And I looked at the English market and I thought, well, it's still too difficult for the English market. So I thought, so their version was mini-bridge, and I modified it to create all one word, mini bridge, and went around the country for several years, actually a bit longer than that, but funded for several years. But like I said, defunded when I asked them to shift the goalposts, because my original remit was to go in as a maths and thinking skills teacher. And it was obvious that really the social situation, social and emotional and well-being situation in schools was so dire that we needed to shift the goalposts and make it into a social and emotional activity. Anyway, defunded. The resentment led me to write a report that was ignored. And then the fact that I was now doubly resentful led me to write the book. And I was about to embark on a tour about the book when COVID hit, and I'd been doing research into true law for several years throughout the 2010s or 20-teens. So I was realizing that the law that I'd learned at university was of no effing use. It's academic. It's academic. Whenever you are offered anything academic, you need to look up the word academic in the Oxford English Dictionary. It translates as, it's about the third or fourth definition. They keep shifting it down. The more I mention this, the more the Oxford English Dictionary shifts the definition downwards, which is of no practical use or value. So I realized I realized that my legal training was of no practical use of value, either to me or to anyone else. So I embarked on a deep dive into true law, came across an amazing documentary, Talking Heads, called The Nature of the Cage, with people like John Harris, now deceased. And that was just my wow moment. And then I found people like Jordan Maxwell. I'd already been looking into the work of David Icke, just looking into the bigger picture, but this was more drilling down into how law really operates, how we've been scammed, how our authority has been inverted. Anyway, so when COVID hit, I used all this knowledge and skepticism of the system, because if you turn your back on the legal system in the 1980s, and I'd also turned my back on the medical system because I was so stressed at work, I was offered medication. I said to the doctor, I'm 23, 24. How long do you want me to take that? He said, well, for as long as it takes. And I just thought, red flag, alarm bells going off. This guy's scamming me. So, and I've never taken any medication ever, to be honest, apart from dental antibios. And so having seen through the medical scam, the legal scam, it wasn't difficult for me. It took me a few days to confirm to myself that there's no such thing as a virus, therefore there's no such thing as coronavirus. And but I would just offer these sad blokes the microphone. You obviously have a very strong opinion, sir. So there you are. Take the microphone and tell us all how wrong I am. Nobody ever took me up on that offer.
And David, we're gonna hear some more of your opinions. We're gonna have a quick break, and then we're back for a longer section. So we're bringing back my guest, David Edelman, off this break. Don't go anywhere, or I'll tell Ursula von der Leyen where you live. I'm Abi Roberts. This is TNT.
De-weaponizing weather with reality and perspective.
According to people, the Earth's temperature, and I say people because I don't really consider the people saying this actual scientists. They may have degrees, but since they're using temperature as a metric for climate, they don't know what they're talking about. But according to them, this has been the hottest year on record, 2023. Now, that's interesting because the world population has gone over 8 billion. In fact, there are close to 70 million new people on the planet than there were back in 2022. Or put it this way, there are 70 million more. Now, I can't figure out if things are so bad, how come the population continues to increase? I mean, aren't we at a hellhole right now? Now, I realize most of you don't have degrees in meteorology, and that's fine. What we were taught at Penn State, back when Penn State used to not be a climate indoctrination school, well, maybe they're not now that Michael Mann has left and gone to the University of Pennsylvania. But we were taught that temperature is a very poor metric for climate. Wet bulb temperatures are a much better metric because, after all, water vapor is very important, right? So if you know how much energy is in the air and you know that a lot better with a wet bulb temperature, then you get a better look at it. See, it can be hotter, but if it's drier, there's no real change in the amount of energy in the air. Better than that, though, is saturation mixing ratios. Now, this really quantifies the water vapor. So let me ask you a question. If you want to track down the source of what warming is, would you use something that doesn't correlate at all to the temperature, CO2? Or would you use something that has a direct correlation to the temperature, which is water vapor? This is Joe Bastardi asking you to enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
For lovers of truth, liberty, free speech, and the pursuit of justice, Abi Roberts.
Now, another exciting episode.
Period, whether it's a day, 2 days, or a week, I can't remember, to be honest. You take the lid off, the fleas will not fly out. That's schooling. So it's what I call a lobotomization. It's a total limitation of children's potential. And I had a very recent incident. I was on a bus locally, and the bus stopped randomly outside a school. And you look across, and you see this 10-foot fencing, and it's only a primary school. 10-foot fencing, and the boys and girls have lobbed a ball over by accident, and it's stuck in the street, and the bus driver had stopped so that he could get out and throw the ball back. And I've now developed what you could call anti-tyranny Tourette's. So I'm shouting, kiddie prison, kiddie prison. You know, I can't hold back anymore. And that is what we have to accept now. We have to wake up and realize that we're sending our boys and girls to prison, and we have no excuse for doing that, none whatsoever. If parents tell me, well, I'm too busy and I can't this and I can't do that, that's prima facie evidence. See my lawyer's hat back on there.
Yes, love it.
Prima facie evidence of narcissism. And I'm not holding back now. You know, I do talks around the country. I'm calling parents out because if you don't look after your kids, the government are going to do their heads in and make them into good little communists.
Yes, indeed. And that is exactly what's happening. Tell us, David, about your book, the book on schooling, which I'd love to hear about, and when you wrote it.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you two things because you did ask me something. We haven't dealt with it yet.
Thank you, David. It's like I'm being produced. Carry on, my love. I love a man with. Oh, go on. Yes, carry on.
Maybe it's because I'm a vegan.
You're a vegan. Yes, are you? Oh, good grief.
Right.
How are you feeling? How are you and yourself with veganism?
Absolutely.
See, we've taken a detour now.
I'm probably the healthiest person I know, but that's another day. We'll do another show on that, Abby. Right.
We'll do another show on vegan dogs. Carry on with the schooling.
Yeah. Okay. So the book came about because the resentment of being defunded led me to write an ebook. Well, first a report that I mentioned before the break. That report became an ebook. People read the ebook and said, this is interesting, but you need to flesh it out. To flesh it out, I got anecdotes from pupils, teachers, parents. I found myself in cafes with newspaper articles falling on my lap. Anyway, fleshed it out, and it became 4 or 5 times bigger. And it sold a few thousand, no sponsor, just self-produced. And it's changing lives. It's very moving because I have a lot of people tell me when they come to my talks, as a result of reading your book, I've realized that I can home educate. And not only can I home educate, I must home educate. And my boy or girl is a different person since we took them out of school. So backflipping, so I was on the streets of the north of England in the COVID lockdown, and I'd been invited to Morecambe, the promenade, and I'd been just giving these talks as David. I'd put School No Place for Children on hold because people were telling me, no, we need to know our rights. We're not interested. School's they're not even sending the kids to school at the moment. They're all shut. So I had 200 people in front of me, and I know there was about 20 coppers looking on. So I thought, well, I'm not going to give the coppers a free lunch. So I said, my name is, the people's lawyer. And it stuck because it felt appropriate because I am a qualified lawyer and I'm now giving talks, and I'd already started a course that's very people and anti-government and anti-tyranny oriented. So that got its own website, and the course that I had been doing as David now became the People's Lawyer Privacy and Universal Rights course. So I'm a busy boy, wear a lot of hats,
but you're not wearing one today.
No, because my central heating's on. Otherwise, I would be wearing 2 hats.
You will be wearing 2 hats indeed, and you're juggling lots of hats. I love it. But you're doing great work, David. And just one thing I was going to say, with the school and being at home. Well, this might be a little bit of a tricky question. I'm going to ask: is that playing into the stay-at-home policy that we've seen the last 4 years, with children actually being at home rather than socialising in schools?
There's no socialising in schools. They've removed a lot of the playgrounds. And you have the lowest common denominator operating. The bullies take over, and then you spend 10 years simply surviving. There's no thriving going on in schools. It's the few small scale studies they've done show without any shadow of a doubt that home educated children are more confident, more assertive, happier, more stable, more everything, more mature, more confident. They'll talk to you. When I was in front of I was doing a little workshop at one of these so-called freedom festivals, and I had a group of kids from 6 to 16, and there was 2 younger and 2 older. And and I assumed that because they were the children of freedom lovers, that they were all home ed. And they're staring at me, and I'm staring at them, and they're not saying a word, and I'm thinking there's something wrong here. And it turned out that they were all at school. So that's where you learn fear of authority, inability to speak out. You need permission for everything. They need permission now to go to the toilet. They found that the toilets are shut, and they're putting surveillance cameras and sensors now in the toilets.
Yes, and that
it's a no-brainer, Abby.
It is a no-brainer. And on that note, I mean, David, like you said, I could talk to you for a lot longer. I mean, we nearly went into vegan dogs. Maybe slightly sweat. And God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on. Do come back, David, and we'll talk a lot more about your book and all the great work you're doing. So that was David Edelman. Thank you very much.